Some of your destinations have errors. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. This is TJ with Solutions by TJ and the Millennial Masterclass. And I have with us Mr. Burton Elicondo once again. So excited to have you. You did an awesome live the last time. And just to let you guys know, I have locked myself out of my car and my house because I got home and the keys are in the doggone car. So I'm outside and waiting on AAA to come in, but I wanted to get us started. Today we're going to be talking about wholesaling and specifically wholesaling using Propstream and using all of the awesome data that they have available to us. So Burton is going to go through that with you, how to build multiple lists. For those who are beginning and have never, you're brand new to real estate, I have to say this. Wholesaling is the act of finding a deal on a house. So finding a motivated seller who's willing to allow you to put a contract on the house. One moment. This is crazy, I know. Put a contract on the house below market value. So you get a contract on the house below market value, and then you actually assign that contract to an investor. So Burton is going to give you all the details on how to do that within PropStream. All right, Burton, you can take over now.
You got it. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Let me go ahead and get my screen over and I can go ahead and show you the best practices when it comes to finding leads for wholesaling. Okay, so before we begin in how to find leads, I do want to talk about what a lead is. I think there's a misconception out there. So let's just kind of connect the dots a little bit. Okay, so when someone says go out there and find a lead, what they're really looking for, what they're really telling you is that go out there and find a motivated seller. And what a motivated seller is just a homeowner who's in a situation that has a high probability of selling their house, but not just selling their house below market value, just like TJ just mentioned, right? That's the key component about wholesaling is we got to get the property on contract below market value. So that way we can assign the contract later on to an investor and then make the profit in between, right? So if you were to use PropStream, one of our key things is that we provide lead generation. So you can build your motivated sellers and you can even build buyers if you need to. But today we're going to focus on motivated sellers. So let's talk about just that. What is motivation, right? Again, motivation is just someone who's in a situation where there's a high probability of selling you the house at below market price, right? So if you were to take the lists that we collect, here's how you would break those lists down in terms of motivation. Remember, when you are calling a list, you're actually calling a person. And that person is in either three situations. They're either good, meaning there's really no need for them to sell you their house at a discounted price, right? And some of the categories that we have are your cash buyers, your high equity properties, someone who owns a property free and clear, like someone who pays off their mortgage, right, after 30 years, and a flipper, someone who's flipping properties here and there, right? This is not the list that you'd want to look for discounted properties or to call and get discounted properties, right? However, we do have some categories that have some level of motivation to where that could happen. And that's what I call the uh-oh. And here's why, because this is the highest level of motivated sellers there are when it comes to real estate. These homeowners are literally weeks away from losing their property. And this is the most sought after list. So these are the three categories, right? You have your good homeowners, your uh-oh homeowners, and the ones that need your help right now homeowners, right? So with Propstream, you can dive into any category. So let's go ahead and look for a needs help owner. Let's look for a pre-foreclosure. So I'm going to go into Propstream and I'm going to pull up a market. Let's go ahead and do Las Vegas. And when I go to Las Vegas, Nevada, it's telling me that I have 1,200 pre-foreclosures. And of those 1,200 pre-foreclosures, 24 of them are in auction. So if pre-foreclosures, let's say the motivation starts right here, then I would say one with an auction is a little bit higher on this motivation meter, right? So it's up to you. Do you want to deal with the pre-foreclosures or do you want to deal with the ones that actually have an auction date? And in this case, you have about 12 days before the auction actually happens. So the idea with finding a need help category is here they are. Search your market, choose your pre-foreclosures or auctions, and then we're going to give you filters so you can refine that search. So you can click on filters here at the top and add some components to this search. Now, again, if you're wholesaling, there are 3 general rules you must follow at all times, okay? 1, it needs to be off market. You can't wholesale a property that's on market with an agent or even under contract with another wholesaler, right? So what you want to do is anytime you're in our filter, you're going to want to go to MLS status, and where it says on market, you're going to want to make sure you have no in that field. Okay, you want to make sure it's not listed. So as you can see, 1,200 have now dropped down to 1,100. The second important rule about wholesaling is you got to have equity. If there's no equity, there's no room for an assignment fee. There's no room for your buyer who's going to buy the contract to make a profit, especially after the rehab. So the next best practice is to go into the valuation and equity info area and apply either a dollar amount of equity or the most common, a percentage of equity. And usually people like to start at a minimum, and the higher the number, the better. Some will start at 50%. Some will start at 60%, right? For those of you that don't know what equity is the difference of the mortgage owed and the value of the property. So if the property is worth $100,000 and your mortgage is $30,000 left, that's $70,000 difference. That's equity. That's actually something that you can call the bank and tap into, right? As wholesalers, we like that 70%. Why? Because the idea is you want to get the property under contract below market value, correct? So if a person owes $30,000 on a mortgage, we can call them, put them on contract for, let's say, $40,000 in cash, right? That's the agreement. I'll give you 40 in cash. So if they say yes, we sign that contract. We can then sell that contract for $50,000, right? That's where you make your assignment fee, that $10,000 difference from 40 to 50. That's your profit. Now, when the investor buys that property or the contract for $50,000, remember, they're going to need to rehab it. Let's say they put 20 into it. So they're going to spend $70,000. That's still fine because after spending $70,000, they can sell the property for $100K and make their money back and $30,000 on top. This is why equity is one of the core features, one of the core rules when it comes to wholesaling. Off market, second, make sure it has equity. 50% higher, the higher the number, the better it is for you in the long run and for your buyers. So with this example, we're going to do 50% or more. And then the last core rule when it comes to wholesaling is motivation. And motivation, I'm going to put an asterisk on that because it could be anything. As we saw here on the list, it could be something that just started, like a delinquency, right? As long as the delinquency is off market and has equity, it can be played with, right? Same with the divorces and bankruptcies. Now, if you want something that's very, very, very motivated, you can go after the pre-foreclosures. But do note that when you're going after a very motivated list, like pre-foreclosures and auctions, Yes, you're going to get big discounts. Yes, it's going to be a faster closing situation because you have to beat the auction, but it is very competitive. That's without a doubt. So, as we saw here, I have 536 properties that I can market to. Now, I can add more filters like some property characteristics, make sure it's residential, make sure it's a single family property. Most wholesalers do residential single family properties. You can apply ownership info. For example, I only want to deal with individually owned properties, no corporate owned properties, none of that thing, none of that talking to a secretary or having to call one extension and the next extension and so forth. So you can add additional filters if you need to. But ultimately, once you hit close, your results are now on the right-hand side. Where we started with 1,200 pre-foreclosures, we now have the 234 that we need. Again, they're off market, they have equity, and the level of motivation that we're dealing with here is the highest because they're in pre-foreclosure. So what we're going to do now is check off the ones that we want, highlight them all. We can even filter. Maybe 234 is too much for you. Maybe you just need the first 50. Show me numbers 1 through 50. Hit enter. You can now hit add to list and save this motivated sellers list, in this case, the pre-foreclosure list, to an existing pre-foreclosure list that you have already. Or you can create a new one. Las Vegas, pre-foreclosures with 50% equity and off market. Hit save. We're going to take the list of 50 addresses that you just highlighted and put in your My Properties. At this point, you can check off that list. If you have List Automator, we can automate it, add and remove properties for you going forward. Make sure everything every day meets that record or meets the criteria. We can export it. We can skip trace it. We can mark it to it as well within Propstream. But that's one list, right? Now, as you see, we only had 234 results, and it's a very competitive list. So what happens when we're sending postcards and calling all the phone numbers on that list, and we've done that for a few weeks and nobody's interested in selling, or we believe we've exhausted that list? Well, remember, nobody wakes up in pre-foreclosure overnight. There's usually what I call the smoke that happens before the fire erupts, right? And that's what I call the uh-oh. So what I'm going to show you is how to look for situations that are heading into pre-foreclosures. And these are the categories you want to aim for, okay? So in this example, we're going to go back to Las Vegas, right? And we've marketed to the 234 pre-foreclosures, but we need more leads, right? We know that this real estate investment career is going to need more than just 1 or 2 leads. We're going to need to keep finding leads and keep building our pipeline, right? So since I know that no one shows up in pre-foreclosure overnight, and since I know there's an uh-oh situation, what I can do now is go to Las Vegas, go into the filter and choose any of those other uh-oh situations, like a lien, right? And there are 5,000 of those that I can deal with. Now, again, we have some rules to follow. What's the first rule? Has to be off market. What's the next rule? It has to have equity. So we're going to go in here and put 50% in equity or more. And then where we go, we have our 2,800 properties left, right? Much more than just the 1,200 pre-foreclosures that you started with. So not only do we need to make sure it's off market and has equity, but we have the level of motivation already, which is liens. Now, since we want to stay away from the competition, and we probably want to stay away from the pre-foreclosures we've marketed to already, what you want to do next is go into the pre-foreclosure area or the filter, and under status, you're going to want to exclude pre-foreclosures for 2 reasons. A, you're going to want to stay away from the competition. So by saying I don't want pre-foreclosures, you're actually just staying in this area right now. The idea is that you're going to try to lock up the contract before it goes into pre-foreclosures. So for 2 reasons here, to exclude pre-foreclosures, you're beating out your competition. but you're also not going to market to the properties you've already marketed to, because these properties that you just built right now are not in pre-foreclosure yet. So look at that. Off market, has equity. They're not in pre-foreclosure, so I won't be marketing to properties I already marketed to, and I won't be dealing with other investors, right? But the level of motivation here is a lien. So understand that this is a situation that can cause a pre-foreclosure. You don't pay your liens, it's going to cause a pre-foreclosure. But because you're not in pre-foreclosure yet, I understand the level of motivation isn't there yet, right? It's not as high as someone who's about to go to auction on October 16th, right? Which is 14 days away from today. So my main point is this: be patient, right? I know you're probably really good at negotiating, but that might not mean the owner's ready right now. So that's why in this industry, follow up is very, very big, right? Build that rapport, build that relationship. When you call someone who just missed their tax payment, or they waited 6 months to sell their property with an agent and it failed, or they got a property tax lien, the first time you call them, they're probably in denial, or they probably don't want to deal with you, or they probably think they have the situation under control. And that's why you got to follow up. Don't be so aggressive. Be patient, right? Build that relationship. On that second follow up, maybe you ask a little bit more questions. Maybe you realize the situation's getting worse. They're still going to say no. Perfectly fine. Do a third follow up, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth. The idea is eventually you're going to realize that either the situation has been resolved and they're back to being a good homeowner. And if so, congratulate them. If not, then you know that after the fourth or fifth follow up, they're heading into pre foreclosure. And that's probably when the owner is going to start realizing that you're really there to help, and that you're probably the only option that they have now, right, to get rid of their situation, to prevent their credit from being destroyed, to prevent their home from being taken away from them, prevent them from walking away with nothing, right? So the idea with suppressing pre-foreclosures is you are going to start before all of that, but just be patient with them. Now, here's some reality, right? Because I've been doing this for 7 years, dealing with investors and helping them with data searching, and I hear all their stories and whatnot. Sometimes that property, even after several months, several weeks of follow-up, they're still going to go into pre-foreclosure, right? And you're probably thinking, man, I wasted all that time. I should have just waited for them to go into pre-foreclosure. Wrong. Don't think like that, because when someone goes into pre-foreclosure, that's when all these other investors start calling. Remember, there are investors out there that only wait for just pre-foreclosure. So think of the homeowner. Remember, you always got to put yourself in their situation. That homeowner has been talking to you for the last 4 months. You've been very kind. You've been building this relationship. You guys have been talking about sports or whatever it may be over time, right? You've been warning them about that pre-foreclosure. And finally, they get into pre-foreclosure, right? They didn't heed your advice. So they're in pre-foreclosure now. Guess what happens, right? They're now going to be bombarded with postcards, bombarded with phone numbers, people claiming they can help them from that pre-foreclosure. But here you are, the person that's been dealing with them for the last few months. When you call, don't you think your phone number is going to stand out over everybody else's phone number? And then when you say, hey, trust me, I know what I'm doing, I can help you, don't you think that they're going to believe you because you've been patient for 6 months while these investors all of a sudden came out of nowhere to help out, right? So understand, there's more than just pre-foreclosures. There's the smoke. So what I just did was I looked for a lien that's not in pre-foreclosure and applied the same rules. Off market, has equity. Now I can even stack that lien, right? How do you get out of a lien? You got to pay for it. Well, what if that lien has a bankruptcy? I can go in here and I can go into the lien section and add an active bankruptcy to that search. And so here are 93 properties that are in Las Vegas. Remember, they're not in pre-foreclosure yet, because I told the system no pre-foreclosures. Stay away from competition and stay away from the ones I marketed to already, because I built that list earlier. But look for a lien with a bankruptcy. Why? Because if you don't pay a lien, it's going to go into pre-foreclosure. And that bankruptcy, right, attached to the property is a huge sign that's telling me that there's no income coming into this property. The debt to income ratio is definitely on the wrong side. So I'm looking for a lien, but not just any lien, a lien that where the owner filed for bankruptcy. So there's a probability that lien's going to end up going into pre-foreclosure. I hope you guys understand that, right? So you can still build motivation within the area. And again, once you have your results, in this case, liens that have a bankruptcy, they have equity, they're off market, but they're not in pre-foreclosure yet. I'm going to call them so I can beat you guys to the punch, right? But once I have my results, again, I can check off the ones I want. I can highlight them all. And then I can even filter it. Again, I can only get the first 50, first 20, your choice. Let's do 50 here. And then we can add it to a list. So liens with bankruptcy, off market with equity. Save. Again, your 50 addresses or however many results that you just saved are now stored in the My Properties area where you can click them, check them all off, or the ones that you want, and then hit the export button. Remember, you can even automate the list if you have List Automator. For those that don't know what that means, it allows us to automatically add records. So when we're doing an update tomorrow, next week, and something matches this filter that's on your list, we can just add the properties in here for you. We're also going to pay attention to the properties that you just saved. If over time they sell, they're on market, we can actually delete them for you. We can take them out of your list for you. So if you have List Automator, it is an add-on, but it's a really cool tool. But again, once you save your property, you can export it, you can automate it, you can skip trace it and get phone numbers and emails. You can even send voicemails, emails, and postcards to those addresses. So what I just showed you guys are two very important things that investors over the last few, I would say last 2 decades, have implemented because of technology. The ability, remember back in the day, you didn't have this luxury. You had to go to the county to get a list of properties, and you had to physically look for the single family properties, set those aside, then call an agent and say, hey, how many of these properties are off market? And that's if they would even get back to you, right? So what I just showed you is looking for high motivated properties, applying to make sure it's not on market. And then the equity is big because we collect mortgage data. We can actually tell you which properties do and don't have equity. I'm also showing you how to suppress data, which again, we go back 20 years ago, that was not even an option, right? If you got a bankruptcy list, well, that's one pile of properties. The pre-foreclosure list is another pile of properties. So for you to see if a property was in both piles and for you to say, hey, I want a bankruptcy not in pre-foreclosure, you had to physically check that, right? We're now able to do it with 2 clicks of a button. Bankruptcies, exclude pre-foreclosures. And then finally, because we've been doing data for over 15 years or nearly 15 years, actually, what we have discovered is that, again, you're not looking for a list. You're looking for a situation where the owner is going to want to sell their property below market price. It's what we call a problem, right? You're looking for a person in a problem, and you're going to solve that problem. And then that's where you're going to get your assignment fee. So let's, again, think about the 3 rules. What were they? Off market, equity, and then the third one is motivation. And that could be a pre-foreclosure, a lien, a bankruptcy. So what I'm going to show you is what new investors, very seasoned investors are doing, because as more and more investors are getting involved with the industry, they need to beat you guys out, right? Or those new investors out. So what they've discovered is that, and we've created the system for these seasoned investors. So I'm going to actually show you what they're doing. What they're doing is they're searching a market, going into the filter, and instead of choosing one of these or needs help lists, they're actually just building their own situation. So they're going to go into our filter. Remember, what are the 3 components? 1, off market. 2, has to have equity. So we're going to do 50% or more. And then 3, problem, motivation. What's going to cause them to sell the property? And that could be practically anything, right? Most of the times we think it's a list, it's a pre-foreclosure. No, it could be because the property was built in 1940 in 1960. So it's falling apart now, right? Not only is it built in 1940, 1960, but it's a residential single family property. So it's not like a commercial building with better quality, right? To make it even worse, not only is it a property that's really old and it's single family, but the owner who owns this really old property lives in a different state. So to have to rehab it and have to clean it up and do all, I mean, you're going to have to travel quite a bit and deal with contractors. And are they even doing the job? Because you're not even there, right? You're in a different state. And to make matters even worse, it's an individual that owns that property. So here's an individual, someone like you or myself, who owns a property in a different state, right? It's really old and it might be either occupied by a renter or even better, vacated. No one's there actually renting out that property. So it's old, you're in a different state, you're not a corporate office. So you're just, this is a property that you just have and it's vacant. It's not cash flowing right now, but it's off market and it has equity, right? So what's the problem here? The problem is that it's not cash flowing and you live in a different state. What can I do to help you? Is there maybe a price that I can offer that you might be interested in? Again, hopefully that price is below market value, right? So think of again situations that yield high probabilities of wanting to sell. Vacant, out of state owner, that's one of them. And I can go for days. Because of the fact that I know that you're here to build problems, once you understand that concept, sky's the limit. Remember, you just got to make sure it's off market, it has equity, and then you're going to apply that problem, that situation that they're going to want to sell you the property below market price, right? So off market has equity. Maybe they want to sell it to me because they have 3 mortgages on the house, right? Who wants 3 mortgages on the house? What if they're all adjustable rates, right? You're paying $2,400 a month right now collectively on all 3 mortgages. But what if the interest rates go up 1%? Well, that $2,400 just turned into $2,600, $2,700 because of that 1% across 3 different mortgage loans that you have, right? So build problems, have fun with that. And as long as you understand that it needs to be off market, has to have equity, right? On market, no, has equity 50 or more. Then the third part, motivation, can again be a list, which I showed you, pre-foreclosure or an or it could just be something that you know would be a factor, like having too many mortgages on the property, living in a different state, property being very, very old, and so forth. So, TJ, I'm going to take that back to you, but I hope that this helped explain the process of finding leads, especially for those that believe you're running out of leads. I'm a firm believer you're never running out of leads. It's just that you're probably not thinking of the problems that exist in your market on an everyday situation. So thank you, TJ, for giving me the time.
Thank you so much, Burton. I do appreciate it. One thing that I do want to talk about real quick, if you don't mind, is are the rules of thumb that we have in real estate, right? In real estate investing. So for a list, when I build my list, I think Burton was talking about, for the first example, you have about 240, maybe 250 leads that are in pre-foreclosure. According to research that has been done, several people who've done this, over years, and what I've figured out in my own real estate investing is that if you send out 10,000 leads a month, send out information. Text messaging works best for me. That's just me personally, but I have heard other people say, the bandit signs, door knocking, all of that. I like text messaging and door knocking. The letters, they seem to get thrown in the trash for me, and I hate throwing $400 in the trash. So 10,000 leads per month. Building the 10,000 leads per month through Propstream using the method that Burton just taught you with building not only pre-foreclosures, but also people who are going through divorce, the lien properties. When you build that list, there is a rule of thumb, a 10% rule of thumb. At a minimum, I normally get anywhere from 10 to 4 real true leads a month. Out of that 10,000, usually 100 people will call me back. This is called the 10% rule. So 10% of 10,000. Am I right, Burton?
Yeah, and usually from what I've heard, it's like, yeah, it's 10,000 leads. 1,000 will actually pay mine to your message or your card. But
Right.
like you said, then there's that other 10% rule of 1,000. Okay, that's the new number now.
Yeah.
Of those 1,000, who's really actually interested? 100.
Yeah.
100 may call you, may actually entertain you, but like you said, it's really the 10 of the 100 because that's the next 10% rule, right? And so it
Right.
keeps. But yeah, you're absolutely right with the 10% rule.
So at a minimum, out of that 10,000, when you're building that list on Propstream, out of that 10,000, you'll be lucky to get 4 to 10 leads. And I have not gotten less than 4 leads. So what I named this call was how to make $20,000 in a month. If you have 4 leads that you are prospecting and you charge for all of those 4, that's 5, 10, 15, 20, $5,000 per contract that you get under contract and sell to an investor, that is a very fair price. Especially, I'm finding deals where I could easily take $10,000 versus 5,000. And that's how you make a quick $20,000, off of each property. You build a list of 10,000 leads. Send those out. I have friends who say something like "hey" in their text messages or "hi." One guy that I spoke to, he does this, all the time. He starts out with "hi," or he starts out with "hey, do you need your yard cut?" If it's a vacant property with weeds grown in the yard. "Hey, I was just calling to find out if you need your yard cut." That gets people to talking versus starting out saying, "Hey, I'd like to buy your house," right? One of my methods is, I deal with vacant, but again, I'm lead stacking. So after you get in the conversation with those people, then you begin to talk about, exactly what you want. "I'm interested in purchasing your home. I'm buying houses in the area and just wanted to find out how I could help you," especially if they're in pre-foreclosure or they're having other issues. And do not discount properties that do not have equity, because those can actually be awesome subject to properties. There are a lot of people who go through divorces and they just need to get rid of the house. She won the house, or he won the house through the divorce settlement, but they actually can't afford the note. So they are pleased when you come along and say, "Hey, I'll take over the note. Let me give you some more rules of thumb." A short sale on your credit. Let's say, for instance, you're getting a pre-foreclosure property. If they decide to work with their lender and sell the house to you for less than they owe, their credit is going to drop about 240 points, right? Automatically. Short sale, 240 drop. A foreclosure is actually going to drop their credit score about 300 points. So say, for instance, you were already at a 680 credit score and you lose that amount of that number of points, then you've dropped way below what it takes. So for people who aren't working right now, we all know, during your interview and before your interview, a lot of employers pull credit reports to get a new house, to get a new apartment, credit report. So when you come to these people and say, "Hey, not only am I going to pay your mortgage, but in the process, I'm going to catch up your payments, which is going to give you an instant boost in your credit. Then I'm going to pay on time every single month, which is going to raise your credit score even more. So I'm buying your house. I'm taking this load off of you with this mortgage. I'm allowing you to go on and raising your credit score up at least 100 points. And then I'm building your credit even higher by making on-time payments versus you walking off from the property or you doing a short sale." So it's just stuff to think about.
No, I
Okay,
love that. I love that. And actually, can I shed light on that?
please
Um,
do.
because you shared that, that's something that you can definitely do with props. Remember, we were talking about wholesaling, and that does require equity. But to TJ's point, if we're doing a subject to or some sort of creator seller finance, again, what I did was I actually removed a bunch of properties because of the fact that I said I need to have 50 or more in equity. But to what TJ was mentioning, if you're going to do a subject to, we can say, hey, you know what? I want something with like 0 to up to 50%. So show me the other side of the story, the ones that have no to little equity. And so there's still more leads. And so I love that you shed light on that because, a lot of people do call in and they say, hey, Burton, what's the best list out there? And, in the past, I used to think there was one, but the more I realize there isn't one because it's really the investor. What strategies you can implement, high equity, low equity, recently failed on the market, currently on the market, it can be implemented to that strategy that you've learned. So keep learning, and then you'll know with certain strategies, they require certain little criterias. And that's why we have that open filter. So you can go in there and say, okay, this strategy that I know how to do, these are the filters I need for that. Well, this strategy, I need that. Oh, by the way, I need a buyer. Let's use the cash buyers. And that's what Propstream can help you guys out with. So be understanding that the filtering is the new thing. It wasn't around back in the day. This is all shooting from the hip. Now you can go in there and actually isolate the actual leads that can be implemented to a specific strategy that So keep learning because you're going to be able to handle all sorts of situations. At the end of the day, the key is to help solve problems. And the more you know strategies, the more you can solve problems. So thank you, TJ, for bringing light on that.
You are so welcome, Burton. And thank you all for joining us. Listen, so I just put on the screen, I started a brand new channel, right? Specifically for you for real estate, because I want to keep real estate separate from my awesome notary people. So if you would please copy that link, go to that channel and subscribe for me, it would do me a huge favor. I'm going to actually copy this link for you. Ooh, I can't. Okay, no problem. Let me see if I can do it over here. Nope, I can't. So I am going to send y'all that link. And I want you to go there. Please subscribe on that channel because Burton and I are going to be giving away a whole bunch of great information. This isn't just a right now thing. This is something that will be ongoing with us. I'm also going to have the famous attorney, Scott Horn, come and talk to us more about subject to, because I'm telling you, this is how you can get out of the crowd with most investors who are looking for distressed properties, who are looking for a lot of high equity. And it's a wealth building tool because when you get this house, I found one today. The mortgage payment is $900. The doggone rent in the area is $1,950. That's $800 in your pocket from that house. So it is definitely a tool that we need in our toolbox. Subscribe to that channel because I may not always be on Facebook and on the other channels, but I will definitely be broadcasting live from the new Millennial Masterclass YouTube channel for real estate beginners. Okay. I appreciate y'all. I mean, I've been locked out of the house today. I had to rush and get in here. I probably have a scratch on my brand new doggone truck tent. Whew, it's been crazy, but I made it. I love y'all so much. Y'all always come through for me. Thank you so much, Burton, for joining us. I am absolutely stoked about what we have coming up with this channel and with everything that we're doing. My plan is to help you all who are new to real estate investing start making money. Stop asking questions. Get in the game. If you have Propstream, please do not hesitate to get in the game. Now, if you do not have Propstream, guess what? I want you to go to my link right now. It's called knowprop.com, as in know the property. Know the property, because that's what Propstream helps you do. It helps you to get to know the property that you're looking to invest in. Not just one, but throughout the United States, okay? Go to knowprop.com, sign up. They have a free trial going on. Is it a 7-day free trial?
That's correct. 7-day, and it's monthly. It's not a yearly thing. We don't do that. So definitely try it out.
Absolutely. So 7 days, try out Propstream. 7 days. If you don't like it, cancel. But I'm certain that you're gonna like it. Look at the other video that Burton and I did. We are just giving out value, 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 value. So thank you all for joining us. I appreciate you being here. I love you. And guess what? We are rooting for you. All right, y'all take care. Bye.